All right, perfect. Hello, family. Another week of the Lost Confederacy channel. This week, we definitely got to go ahead and touch base on a few topics, at hand. One being, of course, the Brittany Griner situation. Not sure how you guys want to start off. We could definitely go ahead and jump into it. I'll say my piece. I guess go ahead and get that going. Just as far as the coverage, and I really want to parallel it to our brother Grandmaster Jay, who, if it wasn't for, him getting people rallied, putting boots on the ground, not only in Louisville, but we know that Breonna Taylor case wouldn't have even been a case. So just to see the amount of coverage of our sister Brittany Griner, who again, we got to bring home as well, but it just, it says a lot about our group of people in regards to the mindset. It almost seems to me like, out of sight, out of mind. No talk about GMJ, they not going, think about them. Versus Brittany Griner, okay, every day on ESPN, NBA Today, we're gonna talk about the Brittany Griner case. And it's like, okay, will we even really be paying that attention? Or is that just something they're feeding us to make sure that, okay, keep their focus on this individual versus somebody who's actually actively trying to get cases heard like Breonna Taylor's. So I'll just stop right there and let you all kind of build on that, and then we can definitely, just bounce that off each other as far as that, what I just pretty much prompted.
Yeah, I had 2 cents. We've been in critical times, but now we have more of eyes on us. So again, Breonna Taylor, that whole case, that situation went down. How did that even come about? By the man of a man named Grandmaster Jay doing what he did to get to right of that cage out there. So we take that, we can look at that, and then we see the outcome of that whole thing. 4 officers did end up going to jail eventually, but no charges for murder. So they're just playing footsies with us, slap them on the wrist so they can shut up. So now, but Grandmaster Jay is now sitting in jail for who knows how long, and that was just so we can get police officers attention of, you can't do this. Now we got another situation with another young lady that's a part of our group, locked up. Well, she's a prisoner of war right now. And when you're locked up in another country that's not your jurisdiction, she's a prisoner of their country right now. So and you're just seeing how laxy daisy the coverage is, or the outcry is for her. So it took too long for this information to even come out of what actually went down with Brittany Griner and her actions. Of course, she pleaded guilty because I'm traveling with whatever she had, and now the fact that they were able to actually sentence her in that country makes no sense to me, because she's not a citizen of Russia. So what are we even talking about? There should be some type of guidelines to how, when you get locked up in other countries that you're not from or live in, that's handled in our court system, not in theirs. So it's just showing how laxy daisy this government is when it comes to our people. Not even laxy daisy, just corrupt. Too much BS comes out of these type of situations. Nobody traveling for whatever Brittany Griner was traveling with should, be sentenced 9 years in another country. She doesn't know that language or any of those things. And that just trickles back down to just on stateside with the Breonna Taylor case, Grandmaster Jay getting locked up for rattling the cage, which makes no sense. I get it. It was kind of whatever, but it still makes no sense, because, hey, what happened? Now they're mad at him for making them actually get off their asses. We got a lot of things that just make no sense when it comes to this community. I'll leave right
there. Yeah, for me, man, if I'm comparing Grandmaster Jay to Brittany Griner, Grandmaster Jay was actually trying to organize a defense for this group of people, and was actually bringing awareness in Louisville to Breonna Taylor and a couple of other situations back in 2020. Whereas Brittany Griner is an entertainer. She's a professional basketball player. So Brittany Griner gets more publicity from European media than Grandmaster Jay. who was actually organizing the people and getting the people to arm themselves. So if I weigh the two, who's the more important? I'm gonna say Grandmaster J. But nobody in our group said anything about his situation. Even with Breonna Taylor case at the federal level this week, getting 4 officers arrested, people are talking about or congratulating the Breonna Taylor family for on the path of getting some type of justice. But again, no mention of Grandmaster J. That whole thing wouldn't have started if it wasn't for him and the people he organized. So this story is rhyming all the way back to the civil rights movement of the 1960s, when they allowed you to be a citizen and said they were going to desegregate and let you vote. Everybody that had a role in getting you to that point as a group of people, they either killed them or they're still in prison as political prisoners of war, AKA Black Panthers. They killed King, they killed X, and they locked up all the Black Panthers. So here we are now, almost 60-something years later. Grandmaster J is a prisoner of war. He's in jail, right? He's in federal prison right now. The US government found him guilty and has him in federal prison. But then this same government comes out this week and says, oh, come to find out, the state police officers lied on affidavits to even kick in her door. So it's not almost, the US government is telling on itself, because you've got evidence that those cops were dirty and they were talking about it in a garage and they lied on the affidavit, or what people call the arrest warrant, which is a statement of facts. But then you turn around and you locked up the man that was, you knew why he was there, for one, and you found him guilty of pointing a weapon at federal agents. But number one, it's a steel shot, so you really don't know what he's pointing at. Number two, it's not like state and federal officials did not know that he was coming there and what he was there for. So they were able to just neatly carve out the Breonna Taylor murder and just give him a steel shot as if that's breaking the law. Then you compound on top of that January 6, 2021, where you got Secret Service deleting text messages and nobody's going to jail for tampering with evidence. The whole shit is broken and there is no law, for me personally, as of January 6, 2021. But back to Brittany Griner and Grandmaster J, it really shows how disorganized we are as a group of people. That the same group of people that didn't get the police to fund it, didn't get reparations, didn't get anything the first 100 days when Joe Biden was in office, hasn't gotten anything in his first 2 years of office. He didn't even mention you in his first inaugural speech to the State of the Union. Now you're turning around looking at the same government like, hey, do something to get Brittany Griner out of prison. This government ain't did shit for you. And the last thing I'll say on that is the United States government incarcerates more Americans that look like me than any other government on planet Earth. It locks up more Americans than any other government on planet Earth. And you really think that it's gonna look at Russia, another government, and say you're wrong for what you're doing to Brittany Griner? Russia would look back at the United States government and say, you lock up more niggas than anybody on planet Earth. I'll stop right there.
No, I mean, shoot, you just
Said
put
it
the nail in the
is.
coffin. Yeah, just put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
They,
Why
that's
would this
what-
government care?
Yeah, they can't. Like,
It's-
why would? Yeah, they can't. Because then it's like, okay, you calling the kettle, calling the teapot black, basically. Like, nigga, like what Chief Alligator just said. You do that shit every day. So
Every day.
if
So
you
it's
wanna do
like, right, it
wanna do
ain't, it's almost a joke if you come at them sideways, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But just back to Brittany Griner again. I like how you compared, who's more important, who's getting the attention, and I'm glad you brought it up, because now we can kind of spin this story into something else and take attention away from the other political prisoner of war, Grandmaster J. So again, just disorganization on our behalf. What I want to start doing with our group is making sure we need to know what to address and how to address certain things. We're always all over the place. We have to become more organized in order for awareness, or something happens to one of us, it should be just how when something happens to one of the Europeans, an outcry, all boots on grounds, hands across America, they're on a search team looking for whatever they're looking for. We got to get back to that because they got that type of tradition from us, but we got to get back to that. And we're not there. FBA, ADOS, Black Caucus, all of these outcry programs for our people, you know, that want to point the finger at the white man. What are we doing right now as far as our sister and our brother? You know, so to be on the internet all day popping shit and acting as if we're getting organized, are we really though? Because organization takes more than just internet type things. Paperwork comes with organizations, licenses, all types of deals, and then money starts to become involved for the community, supposedly. We might have to stop pointing our fingers at ourselves at this point, because no one cares if we don't care. No one's gonna care. And yeah, Chief Alligator pointed out a great point. If you lock up most people, most of us than any other government in the world, and we're just allowing it as if that's not a real fact, while we're not asking questions, okay? It's even more embarrassing because they teach this. So like, this is common knowledge, and it's almost like, are we supposed to just read that as a stat and be like, oh, that's our stat?
Yeah.
You know,
See what's really wrong with that damn stat type of shit. Yeah.
If we want to compare it to other groups of people, you know, is it fair? Are we going fuck fairness? We know it ain't not fair, but are we paying attention? Sometimes I feel like maybe it's just us that see the shit going down, and everybody else, like you said, it's la la land. Everybody believes it's just another psyop, and it's like, yeah, but it's against you, and you don't kind of get anything out of it. It's difficult with the mindset today. It's difficult.
It's a slap in the face to our women as well, because you got women that are trying to advocate for Brittany Griner. But if I'm a European, a part of the United States government, I'm looking at that American woman and I'm saying, you're a hypocrite, because we lock your kids up that come out of you every day and you have nothing to say. Now you want to complain because it's a professional basketball player? Okay, so you got this divide in our group where those of us from the soil, a lot of them like, fuck her, because we get locked up every day for 9 years with less than an ounce or less than a gram of marijuana. So it still goes back, unfortunately, to the woman, because she gives birth to the male and female of our lineage. And so this has been going on since 1994, where criminalizing the same kids that you raise in your household, and you haven't had a problem with that. So yeah, Brittany Griner, you're really making yourself look hypocritical when you try to rally to her defense, because that courthouse gonna open on Monday, and y'all gonna start giving out football numbers every day, Monday through Friday. Y'all give out football numbers. So it's like we're the hypocrites at this point.
Yeah,
for sure. That too. And just to give more shine light on Brittany Griner, she was one of the WNBA stars that actually would take a knee during the national anthem. So just to tie that into this sister, this is her heart. So definitely want to stand with her, but again, yeah, hypocritical. Because if she got locked up, to me, it's just showing how weak of a country we are. You know, how we allow other countries just to take our people, and it's kind of like, oh, we gotta negotiate. If we're the strongest power or government on the planet, there's no real negotiation here. This and that, we want it back. But we're seeing the lackadaisicness when it comes to one of us. Now you're all the way the fuck over there. If we can't get shit done here for our group, that's damn near like a free pass to them. Like, yeah, y'all, hey, we ain't gotta worry about that. So it's just embarrassing showing how weak we are. But it's not that we're weak. That a chief alligator, I hate. Back to that. Yeah, tell the truth. They don't give a fuck about what happens to you. You really gotta be on your P's and Q's, especially today going forward. It's a chaotic time, even though it seems very peaceful outside. It's a chaotic time. Chief Alligator brought it up earlier. Secret Service deleting text messages. Excuse me. You know, that being the highest contracted group of personnel to watch the president, and we're talking about people deleting messages. That's almost easily a no-go. You know, so it's showing how weak this government is, and our people. If you don't organize now, when this thing do crumble,
It's OV.
you crumble with it.
It's OV. And kind of just piggybacking off of that, man, I think you made a great point, especially when talking about the FBA B1 members and how we have these different groups and, you know, there is no organization. There is no direct game plan, no end goal. And then we just lost our protective factor, or the only one that was, you know, would be a protective factor for our group. So great points there, gentlemen chiefs. But like you said, it's kind of just a great segue into what we're going to be talking about now, because if we're claiming to be, or these groups, FBA, B1, whatever the people are calling themselves now, how can you claim to be from this place and you don't even know about this hearing that just took place with the 5 tribes that from 1866? So how can you say, okay, yeah, we're B1, but then you don't even talk about that on your platforms? So that's something that we're going to get into, because it just, you know, rhymes with what we're going through now, which is disorganization and just, you know, running around, heads cut off, just jumping on topics that, you know, this government is pretty much just throwing out there. Like, okay, y'all. So yeah, we're going to pretty much go ahead and do some straightening tonight and get into it. So with that, we'll jump into our regular scheduled programs. I'll go ahead and start with the 12 steps, and then we'll jump into the straightening for this week. Let me find it. All right, here we go. Share my screen. Y'all let me know what y'all can see it. Good to go. All right, perfect. All right, so step number 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Step 2, who established that estate. Step 3, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to European invasion. Number 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your position on reparations. Number 5, they either support it or they do not. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3. In addition, field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Step number 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Step number 7, avoid spending money with any small business that does not hire your people, i.e. gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Step 8, all businesses need operating cash, so spend money with American businesses. Step 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making our group, set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, product, and entertainment. Step 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar has been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the US government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Number 11, teach our children 1 hour a day about the history on this land. A, have them learn about an American inventor. B, have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. And D, they should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion militarily and culturally. Step 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the US government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter, will bring us together for our common cause. So as always, I'd like to get you all's input on what really stood out. I'll go ahead and just say what stood out to me this week. It was 2 of them, but I want to go with number 9. Ever since they locked up Jeffrey, aka Young Thug, I'm going to call him by his actual name because they're trying to charge Young Thug, and those are 2 separate individuals. in between, Young Thug and Jeffrey. But they're trying to charge him on pretty much conspiracy with RICO. And just to kind of parallel that with what we just went over with in the beginning of this video, when we have actual evidence of officers who are supposed to protect and serve, obviously they don't protect and serve our group of people, but having legitimate evidence of them falsifying warrants or falsifying, affidavit statements, things of that nature, the highest law or lawful authority on this land, deleting text messages. We're talking about the Secret Service here, deleting text messages from January 6th, yet nothing happens to them. But when it comes to, we think Jeffrey has been, plotting or is involved with these murders going on in Atlanta with no evidence, but they're clearly stating it and putting it in our faces. They're putting it on the news. They're broadcasting it like it's, everyday soap opera about how this government is corrupt. Yet we don't hold them to that standard, but we'll just let one of ours get locked up, like Jeffrey, Brittany, Griner, GMJ, over some BS. And that kind of brings back the 9 because, we are the ones that's running these, at least the entertainment industry. So when they're locking up these individuals like Young Thug, Gunna, or trying to come with these ordinances that's going to pretty much shut down our nightlife. So won't be no more Edgewood, won't be any more Peter Street, because they're saying, if you get 2 violent incidences, within a fiscal year, then that's going to be grounds of pretty much shutting down that business. So if we allow that to happen, people as a group, is really game over, because we don't run anything outside of the entertainment district. So that's what really kind of stood out to me this week in regards to the 12 steps.
All the steps stand out today. I just want to add, I found this funny, not funny, but it's kind of as if this group of people, the Europeans or whoever else that's not from this land, are getting on code. Rolling Loud just passed by not too long ago, and you got 2 artists, 2 big time artists that got booed, Kid Cudi and Migos. I was very shocked by that, and I was like, the Migos and Kid Cudi got booed at a Rolling Loud concert, one of the biggest stages. And then you have this incident going on down here in Atlanta. It's almost as like this code is forming within their own group, because they're very good at that. Show them no more love. Show these big time artists no love, and it's kind of scary to watch, because it does rhyme. With all these artists being killed and locked up, and now you got artists being booed and water bottles being thrown at them on big stages. It's kind of like, wow, sit back and see what's really happening to this group. But if I had to choose one just from talking about that, learn about the states or the states your family originated from, who can boo you at home? Who when you're at home, it's called home court advantage for a reason. So if you're not winning at home, then there's an issue, and we really need to look at ourselves.
Yeah, for me, I would say step 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations? I think we're all kind of echoing the same thing. It's at the point now where this group is so broken and so unorganized that all these organizations that are claiming to be a part of our group, if you're not for the repairing of the group, then you just need to just go ahead and be dissolved. That goes for fraternities, religious entities, the whole 9. Everything we've been talking about thus far. We're at that point where it's time to put up or shut up. So step 4 steps out to me today.
And it kind of goes in alignment with the quote I chose today from Dr. Carter. So I'm glad you kind of said that.
Perfect. Next, we'll go ahead and have Chief Alligator with this week's inventor, American inventor.
All right, so for this week, I chose Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams founded the first American non-segregated hospital in America. That was in 1891. He also performed the world's first successful heart surgery in 1893. He was born in 1858 in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. At 20 years old, Williams became an apprentice to a former Surgeon General for Wisconsin. After his apprenticeship, he went into private practice in Chicago. And Chicago was where he then co-founded the National Medical Association for American Doctors in 1895. He founded that as an alternative association because the American Medical Association, which is what we know today, we were under military occupation, so we couldn't participate in it. So here you got an American that was the first to do open heart surgery. He could not be a part of the American Medical Association. Imagine that, Europeans naming it the American Medical Association. So he then founds his own for us, the real American, and it's called the National Medical Association. The American Medical Association, which is the one run by Europeans, blocked Americans from membership due to military occupation, AKA segregation and Jim Crow. So we can call it, you know, based on the way we learn it, we learn words like segregation and Jim Crow, but that's really military occupation, because here you've invented a form of surgery that the world has never seen, working on the heart. But because you're the American, you can't be a part of this association of other doctors.
All right.
And lastly, segregation in hospitals became illegal in 1964 due to the Civil Rights Act. So we can see that this man founded a hospital in 1891, the first desegregated hospital. So regardless of your lineage, it was in Chicago in 1891 that the first hospital that was in. I'm gonna share this real quick. I'm gonna share my screen. Minimize this. Boom. These are his nurses. Can y'all see this? Right, Americans.
No, thanks.
Yeah, so again, this whole idea that we were slaves and we all come from plantations, this is in 1893. This is his team when he goes in to do surgery on people. And I just want y'all to take a look at those people because
sisters.
Because as we go into this 1866 hearing that they had, nobody looks like us. And in this
Look like them.
Yeah.
These would be our grandparents or our great grandmamas. Yeah, these would be our great grandmamas. Any one of these women, easily. Let me show a picture of, this is Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. Again, this whole slave narrative. Here's a clean-cut American, suit and tie, and this is the hospital, the first one in Chicago, Illinois. Today is known for gang banging, but we got memories of a fruit fly, so we don't remember that this man opened up, he co-founded the first desegregated hospital of doctors and nurses. And you can see his team sitting out in front. So I just want to
love how they always bring the pictures of our ancestors, man. Just, you know, what the brother's supposed to look like. What is he supposed to be? Some pale man? Like, they kill me with that, man. They kill me with that.
Maybe overexposing the hell out of them pictures, man. Just to try to
years of work, dog, just to keep us confused.
Anything that y'all got from him in particular, knowing that not only did he found a hospital, he founded a doctor association strictly for us. And then you look at the team of women that was on his team when he did his first open heart surgery, it just debunks this whole slave narrative. But anything I want to say on that?
Just that, with just probably mainly that part, debunking the slave narrative. What, did they learn all of this overnight? No. I mean, they've been practicing that for some years.
Right.
You know, so we can, I know we hit on always, you know, us being slaves, how that's false. I'm kind of so over, I never even talk about it no more, because it's like, all right, yeah, we can read that. Yeah, I get it. So the people that still, with that whole narrative, it's just, I think it's a lack of confidence in self. Just, want to continue with that narrative because self wants to continue with whatever narrative and life currently is. And it's like, nah, dog, nigga, we was a goat,
No,
like
for real.
Wakanda.
Like, and it just shows me, like, Buddy created a whole form of surgery. Niggas ain't never worked on, and when I say niggas, I'm just talking about people.
People in general.
People ain't never worked on the heart.
It's Wakanda,
You
though.
got an American that said, oh yeah, I do this, this with ease. And I got my sisters that look just like me. They helping me out. You Europeans, watch this. So it rings the bell like, okay, if we not the American, if we don't dictate to the world what the fuck is cool and hot, what's the new trend, then who are we? Because if these quote unquote Native Americans were the ones that everybody dictating to, ain't nobody trying to be like y'all. Who everybody trying to be like us? Everybody trying to be like us. They trying to use our inventions,
everything.
Use, medical instruments. Anything that we touch is gold. We had the Midas touch. So, like you were saying, just us always trying to, we came from slavery. That whole mindset, it just really shows that you don't want to be held accountable for your greatness.
Want to be hip. That was powerful. Yeah, that was powerful.
You just want to do the bare minimum, half-ass your way through everything. But it's like, nah, bro, you come from this. You come from this, like greatness. So you are doing a disservice to yourself by saying you come from a boat and all you did was shuck and jive in the field and jump over brooms. Like, come on, bro. You come from geniuses, warriors,
facts.
Land of milk and honey. Like, nah. So that whole slave narrative and mindset, that's just you don't want to be held accountable for your greatness. That's how I look at it.
I like that because it always makes me think about, like, we did it already. So now we're so far ahead of our times today. We see new shit and be like, our spirit already understands, like, we did that.
Yeah. We don't
so
get
now
up
it's today, like niggas always like, black people different. How you make fun of slavery? Because we not like everybody. Something's totally different about this group of people. Like, and to know that we did come from geniuses, greatness, people that had invented all world inventions. If we used to be those beings, we're still those beings today, and we're kind of walking with this confidence as if, like, like we know we was great. So it's like today, it's like, man, we already did that.
Type of living on your loins, but it's like we gotta
subconscious, right?
Gotta update that resume, dog. We gotta keep going.
Expired.
Yeah, we gotta keep going. So that's a great one there. Great event there, Chief Alligator. Next, we'll go ahead and have Chief Black Coat with this week's Dr. Woodson quote.
All right, today's Dr. Carter quote will be number 8, quote 8. Kind of going along with Chief Alligator's what he pointed out in 12 steps. But and also, actually, I'll go over that after. In the church, where we have much freedom and independence, we must get rid of preachers who are not prepared to help the people whom they exploit. The public must refuse to support men of this type. Ministers who are creations of the old educational system must be awakened, and if this is impossible, they must be dethroned. Those who keep the people in ignorance and play upon their emotions must be exiled. The people have never been taught what religion is. For the most of preachers find it easier to stimulate the superstition which develops in the unenlightened mind. Religion is in hands, then becomes such. Religion in such hands then becomes something with which you take advantage of weak people. Why try to enlighten the people in such matters when superstition serves just as well for exploitation? And I chose that one today because a preacher just got robbed not too long ago. And it's kind of like, how much longer do you think you could take the people's money, not be investing it back into the community, whichever way you can? We get it. We get all these contracts and ordinance, all these things that goes on to the church and taxes and all that. We get it. But do you really think the people of your church is going to continue to give you money as they get to go home to their 2-bedroom home, driving whatever they drive, and then you pulling up in a Bentley you're kind of crazy, guy. Like you're almost out of your mind. So putting that pressure back on the Dr. Carter already knew back then that the preacher was gonna take advantage of the people with this word per the European. And you're seeing now are people waking up to the preacher. Preachers are getting robbed. And I don't think that's gonna stop. They're gonna have to start doing something different because now people are understanding, okay, hold on, y'all don't pay taxes. Okay. So where all this money going, this tax-free money, where's it going? And then you're pulling up in diamond chains and 10K pinky rings and riding in Bentleys. Yeah, the youth is definitely about to start taking that shit from above these preachers, because right now preachers are kind of feared. Like, oh, that's the preacher. You can't bother him. All right, we're gonna see.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point and great quote for this week. Definitely just setting the tone. We're doing a lot of straightening with everybody. Everybody getting it. So, and it must happen, y'all. It must happen. So great quote for this week. And I'll let you go ahead and continue with the legal definitions and points.
I got to pull it up. I'll read it from there. All right, legal definitions. American, indigenous to America, descendants, one who follows in bloodline of an ancestor, either linearly or collaterally. Slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Prisoner of war, POW, person, usually a soldier who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. 5, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Education and enlightening experience. Recovery, a return to a normal state of health, mind, strength. The action or process of regaining possession of something stolen or lost. I'm gonna scroll down into the wrong historical points. Number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Providing unity and a strong defense came first. Maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. Maroons knew their European enemies' language, defense, and plans. The plans part sticking out a little bit more today. I wonder how they knew our plans, their plans.
You're on mute, Chief Biko. So at this point, I think you're getting ready to hit him over the head with this 1866 Indian Treaty hearing. For those that are unaware, there was a first hearing ever in the United States government history that took place last week. And it really just kind of shows where we are as a group of people as far as being uninformed and immature emotionally, financially, and mentally. Because as Chief Blackcoat and Chief Biko said earlier, you hear terms like ADOS, FBA, Black First, B1 on code, and yet none of us, a part of this group of people, are talking about the first ever United States government hearing about what happened to us in the real live exodus on this land. So Chief Biko was gonna pull up this hearing, and we're going to debunk the flaws and lies that these people told on the Senate floor about what happened.
On the Senate floor. They lie all the time, though.
So let us know when you're ready, Chief Biko.
I should pull this thing up here. Add it on the whatchamacallit.
While he's pulling it up, we'll just keep in mind that the one group that was missing from this hearing, as we've been showing throughout all these weeks, is us. The original Cherokee, the original Choctaw, the original Chickasaw, the original Creek, the original Seminole. We were missing from that hearing to see this nation, this 5 civilized, they call it tribes, but they're really nations. Because in order to communicate with the United States government, it has to be a corporate fiction. But the jure Cherokee, the person that looks like me, that comes from a mother that's Cherokee, and my grandmother and my great-grandmother. But I come from Eastern Mississippi. I wasn't represented. The Creek wasn't represented. Everybody on this channel descends from a tribe.
Right.
nobody in that hearing looked like us. So we're gonna walk through it and we're gonna debunk a lot of lies.
Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Can everybody see the screen?
He was kind of my favorite guy. Just the smirk on his face always gave me a little tickle because we understand who they are, you know, not for real, you know. Oh, it's just great to hear these testimonies.
Go ahead.
That's good. We're getting this stuff out.
Let's play.
Years. At the same time, individual members of the 5 tribes enslaved Black people, continuing to do so through the Civil War. In 1866, the 5 tribes signed treaties with the United States, which further reduced their land holdings and contained provisions about emancipation of enslaved peoples who are collectively referred to as the freedmen. Now, for the first time in the history of the United States Senate, these sovereign signatory tribes, freedmen descendants, and the administration have an opportunity to present their views on the 1866 treaties for the record. I understand and acknowledge that this is a difficult conversation because this issue at its core involves injustices perpetrated by the United States government more than a century ago against both Native Americans and African Americans. It is emotionally charged for many and for good reason. Years-long litigation and disagreement over citizenship status of freedmen descendants among the 5 treaty tribes has divided communities and even divided individual families. But disagreements cannot get resolved in silence. And so we will soon be hearing from tribal leaders and representatives for each of the 5 tribes who will speak to their nation's treaty provisions with respect to freedmen descendants. Representative Waters, who has fought for freedmen descendants' rights for years, particularly in her leadership of the House Financial Services Committee, as well as Marilyn Vann, whose advocacy through her organization has raised awareness for freedmen descendants of all 5 tribes. And later this afternoon, I look forward to a deeper dialogue with individual leaders of freedmen groups. So it is our goal today to start a respectful dialogue, to listen to different perspectives, both in a formal setting and informally among members of Congress, tribal leaders, and freedmen advocates, and to educate the committee and the public with informed accounts relating to our nation's 2 greatest failures: the removal of Native peoples from their traditional homelands and the enslavement of Black people. Descendants of both, many here today, still carry the pain of those grave injustices. I look forward to a respectful conversation that takes into account the historic importance of this hearing. I'll now recognize Vice Chair Murkowski for an opening statement.
I just want to pause there. Would you want us to go ahead and start us off there, Chief Alligator?
Yeah, let's be respectful, like he said, and we're going to have an open dialogue and talk about the true history of this United States government. And first thing comes out to me, and what he said is, we got to make these other people watch their mouth. He called us Afro-American. He called us Black. We're the American. We're getting ready to prove that as we dissect this hearing. Let's debunk the first lie that Mr. Schatz, the chairman of this first ever Senate hearing about this treaty, told. The first thing he talked about was the American Removal Act. You cannot talk about the American Removal Act without talking about the 13th colony known as the state of Georgia, which was set up as a military buffer state to wage war on my ancestors and everybody's ancestors on this channel. Can you share the map of Georgia momentarily?
So this one, I'll show another one here.
So Georgia was the 13th colony that the Europeans set up. King George had one of his generals come over to establish this military buffer state. And for those that don't know, the name of that general was James Oglethorpe. So James Oglethorpe is the one that established the state of Georgia. That was in 1733. 7 years later, in 1740, James Oglethorpe sent British soldiers to take Fort Mose in Florida. Now, Fort Mose was a fort that we had. people who look like myself, we were operating that fort. We were doing commerce with the world, import, export. In that same year, 1740, the Seminoles and the Spanish performed a surprise attack on Fort Mose, killing British Colonel Palmer, his captains, lieutenants, soldiers, and the fort was destroyed in the process. So basically they wiped out their whole regiment that they sent down there. That event starts the Seminole Wars. All right, so this goes back to 1740. So for him to just jump to 1830 and talk about the American Removal Act, it's a bold-faced lie. The state of Georgia was started to stop these free, independent, savvy businessmen from operating east of the Mississippi River. I'm gonna stop right there. Do y'all want to build on what I just said right quick?
No, I just like how you're pointing out the fact that, yeah, how are we talking about how are we jumping over the fact that Georgia was created a buffer state? So why was Georgia created as a buffer state? To, you know, that strong defense. What was going on in order to say, hey, we need to take over Georgia? And again, when we come back to these hearings, to jump around and not, you know, go down the timeline of what's actually happening. If we're looking for, I'm guessing this is for like a recovery thing or an adjustment to the treaty and or what they're owed. So if we're trying to get the truth out of everything, then I agree. Yeah, we need to go down the timeline and really understand what was happening, not pick and choose certain parts of this history and exploit it. No, what was happening. And I didn't hear anything. Well, I heard Seminole Wars once in that hearing, but yeah, what was going on down there in South Florida, Georgia, whatever you want to call it.
Correct. Like you said, just to jump from you all establishing your last colony in 1733, and then jumping 100 years later to 1830, the American Removal Act. What happened in that 100 years? Did we just, you know, rope off and like, was there no battles going on? How do you just skip 100 years and just jump into the American Removal Act and jump again to this another lie that he said, Civil War? There was no Civil War. We've proven that. We'll prove it again today. There is no federal document stating anything regarding the Civil War. So that's just another lie that the chairman stated. So again, yeah, like I said earlier, just doing a lot of straightening because we're not falling for the bullshit narrative of Reconstruction anymore. So Chief Alligator stated, had to start, you know, making sure they respect our name. No, you're not the American. You are a US citizen from Europe. We're the American. So address us as such. We're not Black, Afro-American, colored, none of those things. So that's first and foremost. But again, making sure that we are going through history in the proper steps. We're not making these large leaps. So definitely wanted to make sure we, you know, got that straightened out.
So right now, where we are at 1740, we're about to pop off into what we know as the Seminole Wars, or some people call them the Gullah Wars. It's all the same thing. So this comes into the questions. Did Congress declare a Seminole War? I have yet to come across a document, or everybody that's on this channel has yet to come across a document. If you can share the Constitution and the section that clearly states under the Europeans' rules, because the Constitution is their rules of how they're going to play the game. So according to their rules, Congress declares war. So we just want to provide proof of claim. And we're not guessing.
So this is again Article 1, Section 8. I believe we go over this every week. It's Article 1, Section 8, and it lists off the powers of Congress. So if we go down here, as Chief Alligator alluded to, Congress has the power to what? Declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. I think that is probably the most important part of this, I guess you could say, their powers. With one, they can declare war, but after they do that, they have to then make the rules concerning the capture on land and water.
Right.
They went ahead and captured our land and our water, but there were never wars, or war was never declared via Congress. So with that being said, they need to get the fuck off the land, because they unlawfully captured our land and water based off of their own document.
Correct. And we're going to tie him up. Go ahead, Chief Blackcoat. You want to build on that?
No, go ahead. No, Chief Biko Flow, I'm listening.
Okay. So we've already now established that their Congress is supposed to declare war. So now, and we're going to enter this into the record as Exhibit 1. Their Constitution, you said Article 1, Section 8, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So this will be the first document that we enter into the record that the United States government's Congress declares war. We have yet to see a document where they declared a Seminole War. However, there's no document that shows that there was a Seminole War, but we have some treaties to show y'all that that war took place. So can we go to the first treaty, which would be the 1823 Treaty of Moultrie Creek?
You just want to say something, Chief Biko?
I was gonna say, before we jump into that, because we're gonna fall back on their foundation. That's all we're gonna do is just, show them how much bullshit they give. So we're gonna jump down to Article 6, and we read this again every week. And what does it say the supreme law of the land is? Let's go ahead and read. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of the state, of any state, to the contrary notwithstanding. So, as Chief Alligator just stated, we have treaties. Treaties are supposed to be what? The supreme law of the land. We know they didn't declare war. We haven't seen any articles of war from Congress. But we do know we have treaties. Yet, these treaties don't seem to be the supreme law of the land.
So can we see what section and article that you just read? So that's going to be Exhibit number 2 that we enter into the record as proof of claim that they're lying.
Facts.
In their first ever hearing about what happened in 1866. Let's get into them. This is intellectual warfare. This is what every American that looks like everybody that's on this channel, this is what we have to do with these people. We got to take the rules that they set down, which is called their Constitution, and then put it right back in their face and show them how they've been violating it from day one.
And they're pulling up the treaties, like the Payne's Landing and Moultrie Creek.
This is ridiculous.
Let's start with the Treaty of Moultrie Creek. Let's walk through it.
Look, we ain't playing with y'all. We like we said, we getting some straightening done.
They thought that niggas would never sit down and actually read these documents. They thought they could keep us occupied. No,
they thought wrong. They fucked up.
We come from powerful people, man. Y'all thought, how long y'all thought this bullshit was gonna keep going? So we're on the last page of the Treaty of Moultrie Creek. This will be Exhibit number 3. We're going to enter into the record, and right above the signatures, Chief Biko, where it says "done at," right. Right. If you can highlight that last sentence.
Yeah, so I got it like this.
No problem. So it says "done at camp on Moultrie Creek in the territory of Florida, this 18th day of September, 1823. So this is 7 years before the Indian Removal Act. And then it says, and of the independence of the United States, the 48th. So this is why Chairman Schatz doesn't want to talk about the Seminole Wars, because the management or the United States government was waging a secret war east of the Mississippi in the southeast region of North America. They were waging a secret war that they never declared via their Constitution. And you got your rogue military signing treaties. So this treaty is unlawful. So everybody that was forced to move needs to be put back where they were. That's why they never talk about the Seminole Wars, because it was an unlawful war.
Facts.
I'll stop right there. Anybody else want to build on that part right there?
I know. Big highlight on put those people back to where they came from. Unlawful. This not coming from Congress per their Constitution it just shows. Well, again, I think we spoke about this a long time ago about these generals playing for keeps. So they're them coming in their own little think tanks with their own people that's around them, agreeing with the natives, the Americans, what was going to happen. So you're just seeing a lot of corruption, and then it kind of makes me understand how they created their own fake Confederacy, with these treaties, going into treaty with these people. Now they have these documents and they can kind of pretend to be them. But again, if your government never, enacted this war that was happening, down here in Georgia, Florida, then what the fuck was that? And again, they don't talk about it because of that reason right there. Congress never declared it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm just going ahead and taking notes, just like any in a hearing, making sure we're getting our statement of facts, and this and that is Exhibit 3, Treaty of Mochi Creek, and how it is an unlawful treaty. And just as Chief Alligator Black Coat alluded to, you got to give a recover. You got to put us back on our land and give us everything that you took or destroyed, because we know they did a lot of scorched earth techniques during this time as well. So yeah, this is just the first treaty that we are highlighting that is unlawful, and that was made again in the independence of the United States.
Correct. And let's not get it twisted. We're not only talking about those that chickened out and got on the Trail of Tears and went to what we now know as Oklahoma. We're talking about our great grandparents that never ran and stayed 10 toes down.
Mhm.
We lost stuff too. That's why we're supposed to be a part of this hearing, but we're supposed to be slaves. So the Native American from the 5 civilized tribes, they're lying because they're admitting who they descend from. You can't be Cherokee in Oklahoma when Cherokee was east of the Mississippi first.
Facts.
We're supposed to be there. We are the Cherokee, the real Seminole, Choctaw, Chickasaw. We don't know who these people of Asian looking descent are. And we haven't found any records of what you did in America. I mean, everything we see that's been created and invented, these people look like us. But
Right.
let's go to exhibit number 4 and hit him in the mouth with Payne's Landing.
So this here will be the Treaty of Payne's Landing. And again, we'll start here at the very bottom, done at camp at Payne's Landing on Ocklawaha River in the territory of Florida on this 9th day of May, 1832. So 2 years after the American Removal Act and of the independence of the United States of America, 56. So again, the same verbiage that we just saw in the other unlawful treaty that was made 9 years prior to this one. So again, two treaties for the record. Listen, this is Exhibit 4. Again, just highlighting the unlawful treaty being made and the unlawful capturing and roping off of our people to remove them from our native lands.
Correct.
Anybody kind of want to build off of that, or just pretty much, I mean, it's just like the last one, y'all. So
Yeah, we good. We can go straight to the Treaty of Fort Gibson. The only thing I would say on that is it's 2 years after the American Removal Act. So we're fighting before the American Removal Act, we're fighting during it, and we're fighting after. This is 2 years after, and the military is still doing unlawful treaties.
and this is because of the Seminole War that's still going on
Correct.
during these times.
Correct. That their government never declared. So,
Correct.
so it's like they're sending their peasants over here, and they're really sending their peasants out to dry. Because
Mhm.
their peasants, they just thinking we coming to a new land. They don't know that they're finna drop them right in the hot zone.
And get-
No, literally, that's the only way I can see it.
like for real, like they're in the war movies where shit just blazing off.
Mm,
Here, drop your ass out and parachute. Like,
Bodies.
yep, exactly what's going on.
So we'll go to what
Treaty
Treaty of Fort Gibson, Exhibit 4.
yeah,
Let's take a step back. Treaty of Payne's Landing. We entered that into the record as Exhibit number 4. And now we're going to enter into the record the Treaty of Fort Gibson, which would be exhibit number 5.
This would be this one here. Exhibit number 5. Fort Gibson.
And it says here in Article 9, this agreement shall be binding and obligatory upon the contracting parties as soon as the same shall be ratified and confirmed by the President and Senate of the United States. So our question is, was it ever ratified? We haven't found a document where they ratified it.
Correct.
So if you didn't ratify it, then here we got our third unlawful treaty, which is entered into the record, further proving that there was Seminole Wars going on and that the chairman of this first ever Senate hearing lied by omitting that these wars were going on.
Mm-hmm. And like, what this highlights too is these are now 2 years and 3 years after this American Removal Act.
Right.
We just saw 1832, which was the Treaty of Payne's Landing, and now we have the Treaty at Fort Gibson, 1833. So again, we're constantly fighting against these unlawful attacks because again, there was never any war declared by Congress.
Nor was it ratified. It looks like in 2022, they want to get some ratification going, and it's like you lied too much. It's up for grabs now. Anybody can tell their own story, but we got it right here.
Correct. And we have to keep in mind, like Chief Blackcoat just said, we had towns that we lost. We had industries that we invented and were manufacturing out of those towns. We lost all of that during this war, and this war never ended. We'll get to that. This war we're still in the Seminole War to this day. It just changed names and went into the war on drugs, the war on crime. We're still under that war. When we talked about Brittany, Griner, and Grandmaster Jay at the beginning of this video, we're still being treated as prisoners of war.
On our own land.
That's the whole purpose of this channel, is to educate and uplift the American and realize you are the American, number one, based on your family bloodline. Number two, your ass is a prisoner of war. You didn't know this was going on because Congress never declared it. It's a silent war on your ass, your land.
Thanks. And just to kind of show,
that's the bomb right there.
They know where majority of the Americans are still, east of the Mississippi. So I'm just gonna highlight this one part in section 4 here.
The real Americans. I'm glad you pointed that out because
it is hereby mutually understood and agreed between the parties to this treaty that the land assigned to the Muskogee Americans by the second article thereof shall be taken and considered the property of the whole Muskogee or Creek Nation, as well as those now residing upon the land, as the great body of said nation who still remain on the east side of the Mississippi. So they have it clearly in this article within the treaty that they know that majority of the Creek Muskogee Nation still resides east of the Mississippi. So we still reside in our homelands.
Right here, yeah.
We still here. We still here. We never left.
So that would be exhibit number 6 that we're entering, the Treaty of Fort Gibson, Article 4. And that's going to be exhibit number 6 that we're entering in based on their own document that they also admit that small amount that's in Oklahoma, which was Indian territory. That was just a couple of thousand that they were able to get on the Trail of Tears. The rest of us was still over here giving them that business.
Thanks.
Based on their own records. We'll transition now that we've proven that there was an unlawful Seminole War that was going on prior to the Indian Removal Act, during the Indian Removal Act, and after the Indian Removal Act. Now we get to the second lie that he told, which was the Civil War. So this will be exhibit number 7, and we're going to go ahead and get straight to the Emancipation Proclamation. So for those that are unaware, there was 2 presidents during the Civil War. You had Lincoln and you had Andrew Johnson. They killed Lincoln and Andrew Johnson came behind Lincoln. Both of these presidents wrote documents. And so The first question is going back to what Chief Biko entered in as Exhibit 1, the Constitution showing Congress has the powers to declare war. Is there a lawful document where Congress declared a civil war? No, there isn't. There's no document that Congress ever declared a civil war. Now, Chief Biko, can you use your app or your tool that you use?
Oh yeah, I got you.
Can you type in Civil War on the Emancipation Proclamation?
Uh, 0-0. Y'all see it up there.
Okay.
Revolution.
Nothing about civil war in the Emancipation Proclamation. And this was the active president really during the Seminole War. Remember, there's an unlawful Seminole Wars that's going on. This ain't got nothing to do with a civil war. This is the lie they telling. They buried the Seminole Wars in a shallow grave. Type in rebellion, can you, Chief Biko? Okay.
Pop up 6 times. Look at that.
So 6 times the word rebellion jumps up. So now you got to ask yourself, we've proven that President Lincoln of their government said nothing about a civil war, but he does talk about a rebellion. The key that we have to understand is who's he referring to that's rebelling. He's talking about the peasant criminal Europeans that were being sent over here as indentured servants. They were rebelling against the United States government. You were not a part of the United States government because you were a part of tribes, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Seminole. It goes on and on. Y'all with me? Y'all want to build on that?
Yeah, this has nothing to do with us.
Right.
In regards to their rebellion, their fighting, they try to insert, or for some reason our scholars like to attach or put ourselves in this story by attaching ourselves to this slave narrative, which we've already debunked. How the fuck are we slaves when we create an open heart surgery? Make it make sense. So that's the first thing, guys. And then secondly, like he just stated, their peasants were rebelling against their upper class, their we the people. That's who their upper class was. They say, you know what? We the people that signed this Declaration of Independence, signed this Constitution, we gonna still run things how we pretty much run them in England. Hence the name New England. We keeping that shit the same.
Right.
Where was the capital? It was up in that New England area. They're in the colonies and the first, states. It was in that New England area. Then they brought it down to the District of Columbia. So we have these 2 different classes. One saying, hell no, we just left England. We're not going to be peasants and just stay as peasants here. Fuck y'all to the north. So again, those are the people that's rebelling. This ain't got nothing to do with the American people.
Chief Blackcoat, you want to build on that?
Yeah, Chief Biko kind of hawked it down. Again, this was an in-home conflict. This Emancipation Proclamation, Chief Alligator alluded to it and actually, told us this ain't had nothing to do with you because you come from tribes and confederacies. So if you don't see a tribe in here talking about being emancipated, what are we talking about? You weren't a part of this government and want to go back into that. 2 separate governments. Again, this document here right in front of us is not your government. I'm not even sure how we got that confused. I mean, I know it was kind of like a way to make it feel like, big happy family, but from this document, rebellion, never seen civil war, how did we get that misconstrued?
We're gonna stay on. We're gonna stay going north. So we're gonna slap them in. We getting ready to build something real quick. We're going a little over, but let's go to the next exhibit. We're on exhibit 6 or 7, Chief Biko, Chief Blackcoat.
This would be
Should be
7.
on 6. Yeah, going into 7.
You're entering this one into this should be exhibit 7 because the 6th one was the Treaty of Fort Gibson, that one specific article.
Correct. So we're gonna enter into the record the Emancipation Proclamation as exhibit number 7, proving that there's no language in here that states that there was ever a civil war and that this first ever 1866 Indian treaty hearing, that was a bold-faced lie when they said that there was a civil war.
Correct. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I mean, we got it in sequential order, so however they want it. Want to jump into the Freedmen's Bureau?
Absolutely. Let's do exhibit number 8. We're going to enter the Freedmen's Bureau Act because this is another term that they use They're trying to say that the American that did go into Indian territory, they're trying to say that we were freedmen and we were slaves of these Asian looking people. How? Okay. So can you pull up your tool again, Chief Biko, and can you enter in Civil War?
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see here. So again, y'all, do a quick little search. And you said Civil War. Oh, look like nothing here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can you put in the word rebellion?
Waste no time. Popped up 3 times.
Okay. So here's another document that we've entered into the record where the Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1865 does not say anything about a civil war, and the Emancipation Proclamation, let me say it specifically, Congress wrote the Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1865. Nothing in here says civil war. The president wrote the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Nothing in it says civil war, but we do hear this word rebellion again. Now, can you put in War Department for the Freedmen's Bureau Act? Boom. So what actually happened, to go back to what Chief Blackcoat said, that we're proving based on proof of claim, is there was an infight going on between the peasant European class and the we the people class that they classify North versus South. Those that were caught during the rebellion, they came up under the War Department. These Europeans come up under the War Department through the Freedmen's Bureau Act. Remember, people who look like us are not citizens of this government at this point. You're still in the Seminole War. You're still Cherokee, Seminole, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek. You're not a part of this. This was a way of penalizing and accounting for those peasant Europeans that rebelled. Can you put in rebel states?
Got you right here.
You got it right there.
Refugees and freedmen from rebel states. They telling you who the fuck they talking about, people.
Correct.
We ain't from no rebel state. That's not us. They're not talking about us, y'all.
Chief Blackcoat, what you want to build on that?
I was just saying, you seen that Freeman word, that's a big one. A lot of our people today think we come from this last name, Freedman. You know, they talking about these freedmen coming off that boat from Europe, you know, the refugees in the rebel states, those freedmen. And it's just so much we gotta unpack, you know, in order to recover, because you know, people are riding strong. We're free, man. And it's like, chill out, giving your reparations to the white people, man. Chill out.
Exactly. Facts. And a point that Chief Alligator stated, this is coming from Congress. So this is the legislative branch. If you're thinking about the big picture, this is the legislative branch. We just saw the Emancipation Proclamation. That would be the president. That's the executive branch. And then the judicial branch, they just make sure that whatever Congress has as far as laws are actually done. They're just the processing branch. So you have all 3 branches pretty much stating, ain't no damn civil war. So why are we arguing amongst ourselves talking about a civil war? Just because your scholastic scholar, your McGraw-Hill book said it was? This is a federal document we talk about.
It's quite embarrassing how bad the education system is. But I get it, you know, tell the people the truth, of course they'll rebel. So lie to them in a way and make it look cute and sweet. But yeah, man, great point of this coming from our government, or this coming from their government. And you don't see anything about a civil war.
Now, what does that say about the chairperson and all the other people that are in this hearing that are lying in the first ever hearing? But let's just put the cherry on top. That exhibit was exhibit 8. Let's go exhibit 9 and do the amnesty document.
And this here would be from the president after Lincoln was assassinated. So President Andrew Johnson.
Correct.
So here, just gonna pull this up.
And this is a bone to get those peasant Europeans who rebelled during the Seminole Wars. that were unlawful. Now these Europeans are rebelling against their own government. So so they kill Lincoln. So now this president comes in and he wants to get the peasants back under control from Europe. So let's see what he offers them. Can you go down to the point where here we go, right there in the first paragraph, where it says 1800, and well, let's read it. Whereas the President of the United States on the 8th day of December, AD, 1863, and on the 26th day of March, AD, 1864, did with the object to suppress the existing rebellion. So here you got another president calling it a rebellion, no civil war.
Mhm.
He
And
said
what?
to induce all persons to return to their loyalty and to restore the authority of the United States. He's not talking about the American,
Exactly.
he's
T8.
talking about the United States citizen, the European.
Right.
Issues proclamations offering amnesty and pardon to certain persons who had directly or by implication participated in the said rebellion. Here that word is again, rebellion. Can we go down to where he just slaps all the rednecks in the South in the face when he calls it a fake Confederacy?
Oh yeah, we got you. That's the first thing he said right here. So right here, he makes them take an oath.
I'm sorry, scroll down where it says first. Yeah. First, all who are or shall have been pretended civil or diplomatic officers or otherwise domestic or foreign agents of the pretended federal Confederate government. That's the president of the United States government telling these rednecks in the South, you're fake, you're fugazi, you're lying. Y'all want to build on that?
I think that right there is pretty powerful. That's an important piece of facts right there. Pretended civil or diplomatic others. I'm not falling for this fake fugazi shit. I know where you come from, so don't come over here acting like I'm your president. I know who you are.
Yeah.
You came from prison cells and you came from the streets. You're savage. We know who this is.
Right.
And so yeah, for them to be out there waving our flags around, now it kind of puts me in the mind of, did our people side with these peasants and allow them to fight with them? Well, yeah, because the government is pissed.
Mhm.
The president's mad right now. He's using these words purposely. And
They did fight with us, absolutely. They were living their best life in
with
our
us.
Yeah, with us.
They were
They
like,
said, I like.
we don't want to really rock with. That's what it was, bro.
Yeah.
And that's how they were able to turn that rebellion into the Civil War. That's how they were able to keep that lie going, because there are some people from the South that was just like, you know what? You know how they always say, it ain't everybody, you know, some good apples in the bad bunch. And it's like, all right, some of you Europeans aren't quote unquote bad people. Cool, I got you. But you come from bad ethics. You come from bad just track records of who you are and what they do. So again, I can see, you know, okay, yeah, y'all wanted to plus up and try to overthrow this government that I shipped you over here to try to give you your freedom, but now they're working your ass off. Yeah, but no, Jackson is being pretty disrespectful right here purposely.
First thing first, you pretend motherfuckers. That's the first thing he put on here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you pretend Confederate government. We not going with that.
Yeah, and it's a disrespect. I can see why he would be mad, because it's disrespectful. Pretty much, you're my citizen, and now you're over here going with the people that we've been fighting to get this land under control. I can understand it.
So again, going back to the hearing, we're still asking the question, why are y'all saying civil war when we're entering documents into the record showing that Congress and two presidents are calling it a rebellion? And one president went a step further and said, you a fake Confederacy.
Rebellion would have raised a lot of questions. Who rebelled? So let's just change it to civil war. Make it sound, I don't know, whatever they were going with that law.
Really they was really trying to make it, you know, civil war. I mean, they knew, the government knows it was never a civil war. We didn't declare anything, and plus they couldn't be a confederacy. That's in our foundation document. We can't have treaties with a confederation. So
Right.
in order for them to even try to,
Right.
like you said, make it one big happy family, try to put everybody involved when it's not really the case. Let's call it a civil war and let's give them the name the Confederates. That way it can kind of all make sense. So when they see Iroquois Confederacy or the Pre-Confederacy, they can think, oh, so yeah, Confederacy, so they must have joined together. Nah, nothing like that.
It puts me in the mindset of the Europeans that wave the Confederate flag, our ancestors' flag. What are they saying with that flag? I understand it can derive from ignorance, but are some of them saying like, "Hey, I know my history and who we fought with"?
It could
No,
be
because they
the
were still
opposite.
disrespectful. They
It
still
could be the
disrespectful.
opposite. They
Yeah.
don't know the history.
Well, they do in a way, because I've talked to several of them. I love talking to them. They have a strong dislike for the United States government.
Correct.
They do.
But where
They
they
do.
lie is when it comes to us.
Mhm.
I have yet to get one to admit that, yeah, I'm really biting your great grandparents, bro. Yeah.
Oh,
It,
yeah.
it really was my great grandfather that your army, or whatever we called it back then, allowed to fight in. Let me throw this in too while we on this Confederate talk. Now that we know there was no Civil War, you can also see how far the European will go in lying, because in his Reconstruction era, he built all these fake ass statues and monuments in all these southern cities to make the illusion that it happened. But here's my challenge to us as a group of people. Go to a Confederate grave site and dig up one of them graves, and I bet you find one of us in the casket. It wasn't them.
Right.
They good for exhuming our bodies and stealing whatever. I'm saying to us, if you think we lying and we showing you proof of claim, go dig up one of them Confederate grave sites.
We're doing it in the name of science, in the name of history. We're doing it in the name of science. Like you said, they like to exhume up our ancestors and things of that nature. They don't give a fuck about it when it comes to us. So shit, why should we with them? But again, like you said, I'm pretty sure that's probably us anyway. So I'm just making sure to see that's one of my relatives.
Yeah, because the ideal is people, these Europeans running around this Confederate flag, that they were the ones at issue with the government. Like he said, dig them graves up. Let's see. Who was it?
Yeah, who in them caskets?
Facts.
In the Confederate cemeteries. Let's hit them with the last document that we're going to enter into the record for today. And we're going to hit them with the 1866 Indian Treaty. And there's a point in this hearing where Maxine Waters is reading from the 1866 Indian Treaty, and she reads the word rebellion, and she kind of pauses like, because they're all talking about a civil war.
She forgot her lines. She forgot her lines on that one. She was supposed to insert the word like how we do, how they like to do, how they like to do when it comes to Indian. Yeah, how they was like, oh shoot, they didn't change, they didn't swap out that American for Indian, just like they didn't do the rebellion for the Civil War. So that was
Shout out to Maxine. She ain't got much time left, so give her flowers right now.
I don't know, because she's pro-United States government. Again, we weren't represented in that hearing, bro. So you gotta look at that chessboard the way it is. You got the chairperson representing the U.S. government. You got chiefs from the 5 civilized nations,
representing the tribes, all right.
And then you got her coming out of the Black Caucus representing the Housing Committee as a United States government. Right. Nobody's there for the de jure Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw,
quote unquote black folk.
Right, AKA right. So here we can see 6 times rebellion is in this 1866 Indian Treaty. It rhymes. Every document we've showed y'all, it's a rebellion, y'all. It wasn't a war. They lied about a war. And if we type in Civil War, does that pop up on this document? I'm sure it doesn't. It's the biggest lie ever told us.
Not at all.
This is the biggest lie that was ever told to us. This is the document that they're talking about in this hearing, and everybody's going to talk about a civil war.
Civil War.
Chiefs, everybody in this hearing is going to let that come out their mouth, and it's a lie. Go ahead, Chief Black Hope.
No, just multiple times of them saying Civil War, and like you said, Maxine, she got the document in front of her. So there's no way you read Civil War. So like you said, when she hit that pause, it's kind of like, hold on, I'm not saying what they're saying.
So we'll go through this video for the next couple of weeks and dissect it. And what we're trying to get our people to understand is we are the American. And if your ancestors, if your family tree goes back to the southeast region of North America, east of the Mississippi, you are the de jure, the original Cherokee, Choctaw, because you never ran into Oklahoma. You got to get that part of American history. We're talking about your great-grandparents right now.
Right.
1866. This ain't that long ago, y'all.
That's the question I was gonna pose when we're in the last document. If there was a civil war, what was the point of segregation? What was the point of Jim Crow? What was the point of all of these? What was the point of Malcolm X becoming who he became, Martin Luther King becoming who he came, if we are now civil?
Did we enter in the amnesty document we did into the record?
Yeah, that was exhibit 9.
Okay, so let's enter in exhibit 10,
Mhm.
which is the 1866 Indian Treaty between the Choctaw and the Chickasaw.
Yeah.
And this is the fourth document. 3 of them, let me say it correctly. 1 came by Abraham Lincoln, the Emancipation Proclamation, entered into the record. Another document, the amnesty document, was entered into the record. That was another president, Andrew Johnson. And we got 2 documents coming from their Congress, which is the Freedmen's Bureau Act and the 1866 Indian Treaty. All 4 documents, all of them are consistent with rebellion. None of them say Civil War. So where the hell y'all get this Civil War term from in the first ever United States hearing about what happened during the unlawful Seminole Wars and removal of Americans from their land?
Well, you know, that's what we're looking for. We're doing our due diligence, just trying to put this story together, and there is no Civil War, man.
Mhm. Yeah. And we also, like, even that last treaty, that treaty at Fort Gibson, haven't seen anything been ratified. You see
Right.
plain and simple, we say right here, ratified for this treaty. So, okay. Okay.
Again, what we know is the
Bad
Civil
treaties.
War never ended. Now we know that everything this government has done violates the way they set the rules up for how their government was going to operate. So everybody who lost loved ones, towns, were forced to move into Oklahoma, you did it under unlawful war because your Congress never declared the Seminole War. So that's the other thing we're bringing out of the shallow grave. I think that's the biggest thing that we have to understand. These Seminole Wars or these Gullah Wars never ended, and we're still under it to this day.
Like you said, a silent war. They're not going to declare it, but they'll write treaties about it, unlawful treaties. That way they don't have to stand on them because, again, it was already an unlawful war. So that everything after that is just going to be null and void. And
Yeah.
we 3 minutes in, y'all, and we already broke down pretty much that this whole hearing is going to be a lie. So we'll see what other lies they come up with, but it's pretty much checkmate, y'all. Next step is getting them off the land.